Oseo.
Oseo.
Good. That's a Cherokee greeting. Got a good response. I'm Coyote, and I'm known for opening the borders of Turtle Island. And I'm going to start right off inviting Claudia Pokwak, Hummingbird Woman, to come up here and read her own poem as we're going to start.
Greetings, everyone. I've just been watching the Watershed Poetry Festival up in Berkeley Hills. Many poets were there and delivering poems today, many activists as well. So I thought of reading this poem today for that occasion. It's called Wolf Returns, and it's one of my own. Wolf Returns. Spotted crossing the Oregon border, OR7, you've been seen heading south into California after almost a century. Hunted to near extinction by government-sanctioned programs, you were left with no place to hide. You knew well the sound of a rifle blast, the slam of metal jaws, the slow death of poisoned meat. You roamed the coastal range from Sacramento to San Diego, an engineer of biodiversity, balancing prey with predator. Like indigenous tribes, you once belonged to a clan. The Endangered Species Act saved you from extinction, us from soul loss. You've been spotted, OR7, crossing the Oregon border, heading south. Without you, there is no wild. Natives return, crossing long silenced trails. Open border. Thank you.
You're going to film. Well, thank you, Claudia. OR7 was the first of the gray wolves to cross from Oregon into our country to very recent years. We are members of the wolf people up there in Julian, and we adopted a wolf there, Sequoia in Cherokee, and that wolf is now up there in Oakland in their special place for that. This is the feather. That is, this is an instrument for making the good. And the good, only humans can make the good. Only humans can make democracy. And our task now is to move that boulder of goodness forward in that way. Let me look at some of the things here. Start here with this shield. This is Agisawaya, the great loving she-wolf. And she is looking at the white-headed eagle, Atelagai, there. So we can have that. And let me go up here, see this feather wand. And this is a Cherokee inheritance. I've had it for over 50 years. It's called a Mawichidak, mean a learning thing, so that long feather there. It was given to me by a Wolf Clan member, June Haynes of Oklahoma, and she had inherited from an elder, which it was old then, so I don't know, that feather maybe could be 100 years old or so. So that we can see that. Now we can come over here to this. This is a fire poker, and that's Honishchik, and it is ubiquitous throughout Native America. This one I have here to represent the very first fire poker and the first fires, because all this sense that I'm doing here today is all for a beginning. So that would be that. Now, this is very highly personified, is what I can say, almost human in Native America. An impersonation of the fire poker is the insect called praying mantis, and he's also called like old tinderbox. And up there in Nevada in Fernley School, Vivian, who's the teacher, and we had a young student, a girl named Crystal, and she had this praying mantis as her pet. She had bonded with it like somebody might bond with a parrot or a cockatiel. So that is highly important, and it's also the igniter. It's also ignites the beginning. All the stars in the sky are ignited. So that's the significance there of that. And we go over here, and this is the official portrait of Deb Haaland. And she is the new Secretary of Interior. You'll hear more about her in a minute. And over here, this is a portrait of Joy Harjo, Creek Cherokee poet laureate, and I have a piece, by her. She appeared at our poetry festival up in Yosemite a couple of years ago. There. And then over here, here's my eagle for today. And at the foot of the eagle, this is a medicine sage bundle. And I'll tell you the significance of that. And he's perched on the overturn. This is an old Yavapai basket, and because of the dome shape of it, I have it there. And this here is to represent the White House Hogan, the Capitol that we're calling the Cathedral of Democracy. And this is a Navajo sand painting. It's a very precious one to me, that has a tipi and has the guardian, and the guardian has it or her hands out in the gesture Yawanka, meaning giving blessings. So tipi da that shidelish, meaning tipi, I bless you, is what's going on there. And then I have a teepee here, and I'm relating this in the piece I will be reading to that White House Hogan. And then this here is the Eagle Shield of the United States. And in front of it, this is meant to be the egg. Let me say, we are just finishing the month of January, and it has been, for one, the month of crested snow. It's been the month for the whelping of the wolf pups, and it has been the month for the eggs, or incubating the eagle eggs, which now would be hatching, we would call it. And so having that here to be that, what I have in it is meaning an emergent eagle in a crystal ball, is the way that I have that. The first piece I'm going to read is now to look at this with the camera. O when am I, when we all when yo ne yo. O when am I, when we all when yo ne yo ne yo ne yo. This land is the teepee we have always lived in. Women, like the poles that hold up the buffalo hide teepees, are holding up this earth. Nawanka oko wazila, rising up always. Now you can come back to me. We have all learned about or all have seen that a swarm of angry wasps with their daggers of betrayal swarmed into the Hogan White House Capitol. And the people gathered in there are the lawgivers. And we call the lawgivers the doctors. That is, the Aniganogati. They are the lawgivers. And they were taken out of harm's way because the eagle protected them. There's eagle shields all over that Hogan White House. And there are eagle flags. One of the wasps reportedly has absconded with one of the eagle flags, but he had eventually been caught, and the eagle flag has been retrieved and returned to the Hogan. And so when you look here, this is the eagle shield, and these shields are all over in that White House. Now the White House has been refurbished and some of the damage repaired. I'm sure all of that, for the inauguration. But one thing I feel needs to be done, if it hasn't been done, and that is to sage it. To sage it means like to purify it and to, sort of dispel, any of those lingering bee stings or whatever they might have left around like that. So that's what I'm going to do here. Everybody who can smell that's wonderful sage for that. So magic at a distance, I trust that doing it this way will cleanse, the White House Hogan. And again, that is the medicine bundle shade of sage there with Wahari, the eagle. I have a piece by Joy Harjo. It's very interesting. For those who would govern. Now, in this context, the governing body is the eagle. Because here in Native America, all of this is here in Turtle Island. And the people who know the eagle, who see the eagle, the people of the Eagle clan, or the Thunderbird shaman, all these people know the eagle for a long, long time. And people who are the chiefs or the shaman, whoever they are, they know how to hear the eagle. They know how to listen to the eagle. So that's the way we mean that the eagle is the governing body. So here, Joy Harjo's piece. For those who would govern, question, can you first govern yourself? Second question, what is the state of your own household? Third question, do you have a proven record of community service and compassionate acts? Fourth question, do you know the history and laws of your principalities? The fifth question, do you follow sound principles? Look for fresh vision to lift all the inhabitants of this land, including animals, plants, elements, all who share this earth. Sixth question is a funny one. Are you owned by lawyers and bankers and insurance agents, lobbyists, or politicians, or anybody who would unfairly profit by your decisions? But here's the seventh question. Do you have the sanction of the original keepers of our lands, those who know natural law and are in the service of our country in which we live? And I'd like to follow that with, this is a Cherokee piece. Again, Joy Harjo is a Cherokee Creek. Often these two people go together. This is the Cherokee Four Truths of Giving. Nuugi do you go to ande delu. 1. Give faithfully. 2. Give in generous spirit. 3. Give in modest. 4. Give with fellow feeling. And this Gesity, it says, will be. And I've had this ring made for me a long time ago that is the 4 truths of the Cherokee giving. And we have a lot of things that's really changing with the new president. First thing I'd like to remember is to say that just a couple nights ago on the Steve Colbert show, he had President Biden there. And it's one thing of all the interview and all the conversation, President Biden, this is what he said. He's talking about, he's in the church, and he said, when I'm in the Mass, I go to, here he did this, I go to this place of comfort that comforts me. Here in Native America, this is Chanteishta. This is the eye of the heart. The heart of our spirit is right here. So he made that gesture. We do know who President Biden is. So I'm going to start off with, this is a quote from Raul Grijalva. He is a representative of Arizona. And I'm doing this first, even though it's the end of the articles, to show in relief, you know, what's taking place. Quote, the Trump administration's blatant disregard of the federal government's treaty and trust responsibility to First Nations tribal governments has harmed our nation's communities for the past 4 years. We witnessed significant sacred ancestral sites blown to bits and federal protections wrongly stripped from our sacred lands. In addition, we saw the failure of federal public health guidance during this pandemic, which resulted in the loss of life of our elders and community members. Our tribes must always have a seat at the table to prevent further loss and avoidance of further loss and advance the President's goals even further. I'm working with my colleagues to pass my Respect Act to codify this requirement and ensure our nations are proactively consulted. Here, take a look at Deb Holland. In a historic move, Representative Deb Holland, a member of the Laguna Pueblo in New Mexico, will become the first Native American Cabinet Secretary in United States history. As Secretary of the Interior, she will head the agency that manages the nation's public lands. Referring back to March of 1877, just after the inauguration of the 19th President of the United States, an executive order was issued from the office of Rutherford Hayes, the President. And it is hereby ordered that the following described tract of country in the territory of New Mexico, and he gives, you know, the maps, how big this is. This will be withdrawn from sale and set apart as a reservation. So this became, you know, the first establishment of the reservation, and over 1.5 billion acres of indigenous lands were seized by this government between 1776 and 1887. By the mid-1800s, the executive orders had replaced treaties as tools at hand for claiming this territory, and native lands disappeared as swiftly as a stroke of the pen. And once the order had been issued, government surveyors were dispatched to carve out the territory. More lands have been lost to indigenous people in Turtle Island through mapping than through physical conflict. Secretary Holland's appointment comes as a long overdue role for an indigenous voice in the relation to the United States government's approach to land management, mapping, and geography. So that's something that's just, you know, exactly starting off. I'm just giving, you know, highlights, you know, out of these articles. Most of them come from Indian Country Today, that you can certainly look it up. As a part of his racial and equality initiative, President Biden signed a, quote, presidential memorandum that reaffirms First Nations tribal sovereignty through tribal consultation. In my campaign for president, I made it very clear that the moment had arrived. As a nation where we face deep racial inequities in America and systematic racism has plagued our nation for far too long. Today, I'm directing the federal agency to reinvigorate the consultation process with First Nations, to respect their tribal sovereignty. Respect for tribal sovereignty will be the cornerstone of our engaging with Native American communities. So, all of that gets us off to a very, very good start. With Native America returning, the bison are returning, the wolves are returning, we might say the grass is returning, and so forth. I can't imagine that there's anything that again, at this time, like the end of January, when the eagles are going to hatch, so starting in February, then it's going to be the month of the eaglets, these hatchlings. So that gives me the idea that everything is beginning new. We're looking at a new spiritual body and so forth. And, you know, presumably the stingers of the wasps will be rendered, you know, ineffective and so forth. And again, to look at that, this is the crystal ball for the emerging eagle and what it means, you know, for all of us and for our country, Turtle Island. Yes?
Aho.
Aho.